system chosen 2-to-1 over Atari and Intellivision for real arcade gameplay.
Fantastic!
Presenting the revolutionary Vectrex arcade system. Ordinary home video games can't match the laser-sharp visual effects of Vectrex, because only Vectrex has a real arcade screen built in. No TV set needed, so every Vectrex cartridge gives you real arcade gameplay that others can't. Vectrex, it stands alone.
From one of nature's finest to one of humanity's finest. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, geeks, and those people from Venus who emailed to say that they enjoy watching this too. This is my review to what I consider to be the best retro gaming machine, bar none. The Milton Bradley, or General Consumer Electronics Vectrex. Oh, bow down in awesomeness. Bow down. In each generation of gaming consoles, there is a tendency for them each to copy each other. Maybe this is diversified recently in the most recent generations, but in 1982 there was definite copying going on. But the Vectrex stood alone, unique in a world of clones. Why exactly is that? Well, for a start, just look at it. It is, as far as I'm aware, the only truly portable complete gaming system having its own TV. And this is not just a normal TV that has been put in there. No, you will notice that this is a TV that has been turned on its side. Arcade style. And that is for a very good reason. Yes, as you see with the Vectrex, they were truly trying to bring arcade technology to the home, and for the TV to be on its side was standard for arcade machines of that time. To that end, most of the systems of the day used what were called pixelated sprite graphics, as demonstrated here by this fat, useless gimp of a character called Mario. Oof! Oof! Yeah, okay. Ow. Okay, Mario, I take it back. You're not useless. You are fat, though. Anyway, as you can see with Mario here, he's made up of individual pixels. Now the Vectrex. Go away, Mario. You finished your job. Yeah, same to you. Anyway, with the Vectrex, we used a very different system that was used in the arcades at the time. Now, in vector graphics, instead of the pixels of Mario, what you've got is basically it joins 2 points on the screen with a line. So here you've got 3 points, 2 lines drawing it. It's just drawing the line across the screen, joining the points, which is what I just said. Repeating myself. Anyway, this made for extremely fast and smooth graphics, as you will see in our gameplay on the Vectrex. There's only one slight downfall with this though. The Vectrex, like the arcade machines at the time, used black and white CRT monitor. Obviously, black and white means no colour, but fear not, for the Vectrex could recreate colour using, as the same as the arcade machines used, saying that a lot, aren't I? But anyway, the same as the arcade machines used, it used overlays, which were basically transparent plastic overlays. And as we do look at the games in a bit, you will see those in use. So, now that we've looked at what the console basically is, and the technology behind it, and why it's so important in the past and today, let's have a look at the history behind this great machine. Vectrex was originally conceived by a gentleman called John Ross of Smith Engineering in 1980. Now, I don't have a picture of John Ross, so here's a random blob to keep you entertained. Originally, he went to a surplus parts warehouse and found a little 1-inch CRT screen, which he was able to turn into a vector display. Originally, this was going to be a little portable game system, but after talking to the engineers and marketing people, this developed into the desktop system we know as the Vectrex today. Smith Engineering originally licensed the production and distribution of the system to a company called Consumer Electronics, who were eventually bought out by a company called Milton Bradley, who are best known for their huge selection of board games. So in America, you've got this system distributed under the GCE label, and in Europe, it is distributed under the Milton Bradley label. The system was released to a huge fanfare in November of '82 in America, in May of '83 in Europe, and June of '83 in Japan. The initial release price of the system was $199, which was, for a gaming console, not cheap. It came with one controller, although it can do 2 controllers for 2 players. And it came with a built-in, very good Asteroids clone, I think it's better than the original, called Mindstorm. And through a very good licensing deal with an arcade company called Cinematronics, it was able to port Space Wars and Armor Attack from the arcades. Now, I'm showing the arcade versions here because I don't want to spoil that gameplay for you. Now, the Vectrex didn't last long. In fact, it lasted about 1.5 years, with production ending in late 1984. The problem was that the Vectrex had been released right just before the Great Games Crash of 1984. If you want to know more about the Games Crash, there are lots of videos on it, but basically there was a flood of real poor software coming onto the market. Confidence from the consumers dropped and people just weren't buying them anymore. So many systems died during that period, and the Vectrex was one of those victims. Another thing that makes the Vectrex a milestone in gaming history is the fact that it was the first 3D console. Yes, for the Vectrex you can get 3D glasses and play 3D games. Now, I do not have 3D glasses because they're extremely rare these days and therefore very expensive. But yes, it beat the Master System by approximately 7 years. Also available was a light pen, which allowed you to draw on the screen. Only a couple of games use this, and you can actually get modern day recreations of the light pen because the originals, once again, same as the 3D glasses, cost an absolute bloody fortune. Okay, we've had a look at the history of the system and what makes it so great and unique. So, let's go and physically look around my Vectrex before we go and do with it what it was great at, and still is great at. Gaming! Yeah! Right, and here's the Vectrex in all their front facial glory. And the first thing that hits you about it is, it does look like a happy, smiley machine. I said smiley. Thank you, that's much better. Now, what thing you'll notice is there's no controller, because you use your mind powers to control it. No, you don't. The controller itself is kept here. Click a little lever and the controller comes out. Now, this is not a place where I keep the controller myself, because this cable can get disturbed and if this is wrapped up, it may push the joystick out and eventually bugger it. So I keep it in that position all the time. I store it on the desktop over there. Now you can't see that in the picture, but there are little tabs on the screen for the placement of the overlays, and this being the British version, it says MB Vectrex there in very small letters. Right, so here she is, and this is another problem with storing it. This cable tends to sit proud the other way. Right, as you can see, it's a 4-button controller with a joystick, and you can put 2 of these in. The mine's fitted with 1. Now if you do have one of these, be extremely careful because these are rare, and to replace it is going to cost you almost as much as the console itself. So be careful with it. Now, one thing that people do not seem to understand with this controller is they'll sit there, a lot of reviews, in reviews they'll sit there and go, it's not very comfortable to hold in their hand. That's because if you look in the instruction manual, it was never designed to be held in their hand. This system is designed to emulate an arcade machine. Therefore, they're both supposed to sit on a table and be played flat, which is how I have it, as you can see on my setup here. So that's the control. This is an analog joystick, so the further you push it, the faster your characters will move. Other than that, it's a very simple system, and this is one of the only a few places where mine's got a mark on it, but that will come off with some other treatment. So let's go look at the system itself. So the front of the system, as we've already discussed, has the monitor, obviously. Here in the UK, you've got the MB Vectrex graphics. In the US, it's going to be the GCE Vectrex graphics. Around the monitor, you probably can't see this, but there are small hooks. This is where the overlays go, and let me show you an overlay. Okay, this is a Mindstorm overlay, and all these do is 2 clips at the bottom, push them in there, fold it slightly and push it into the 2 clips on the top, and there you go. That's the overlay fitted, and that will, once it's running, give you colour, sort of. And also on the bottom it tells you what each of the keys do. So this is fire, thrust and escape. For the Mindstorm game, this is obviously different for each game. Right, let's have a look around the side of the system. Now the sides of the system, not too interesting, but it does show you the profile and gives me another opportunity to show you the scale, because there is the Atari 2600 Junior, and it's actually, the width of it almost exactly matches the depth of the Vectrex. But not much to see there, just a little bit of styling here, and that's it. Let's go on to the rear. Okay, the rear, obviously. At the top, you've got the handle for picking up, which I originally thought was on this side, but we'll discuss that in a second. Cooling vents, the only controller on the system at the back is the contrast button, for obviously changing the contrast. Usual caution stuff, this is not a toy. Okay, cooling vents, unique serial number. This is the 240 volts model. It's made in England, sorry, as it's for the English market. Made in Hong Kong, which was common at the time, and the usual warnings not to open. I have no clue what that's for. Somebody knows? Let me know! And these are to work on a bugger, because they don't have, like modern computers, cables that detach easily. Everything's soldered in place and very short cables, so if you've got to work on it, nightmare will ensue. Let's go around the other side and have a look. Okay, this is the one remaining side of the console, and a common thing, as I thought when I first got it, I thought this was a handle. It's not, it's the cartridge slot. And if I show you, yeah, this is the cartridge, fits in there. Although this isn't the best example, we discussed that in the review video of this cartridge, which is the Vectrex multicard 32 games version. Okay, we are back around the front of the system, and I've turned off the light that was lighting us up, so you can see the screen. Because what another first for this system, it was the first system ever to have a boot screen. So let's switch it on and see it. Now, as you'll notice, there is a hum as I switch this on. There's the boot screen. And because it's got a built-in Mindstorm game, if there's no cartridge booted in, if there's no cartridge installed, it will go straight into that game. Now, as you can hear, there is a buzz. I'll turn the volume down, but there's still an electronic buzz. Now, this is common in the early versions, such as this one, because they didn't have shielding around the power converter, which is built in. So this interfered with the speaker, and there's a common thing. You can modify it to get rid of that, but you don't getting the original sort of experience should you do that. So there's Mindstorm playing without its cover on. We've looked at the system. Now let's look at some of the games. Right, because there are gameplay videos of the Vectrex on my channel, this is going to be just a quick look at some of the types of games and graphical abilities of the Vectrex. Yes, the Vectrex was one of the first consoles to have a boot screen, something which is common now, but was not then. Now, if you don't put a cartridge in it, this is the game it's going to boot in. And I'm not showing you this with the overlay. That's for the more in-depth review. So, Minefield, which is basically an Asteroids clone, but in my humble opinion is far better than Asteroids. You've got far more variety of stuff, far more intelligent enemies, and it's just a lot harder than Asteroids. There is a fatal flaw in the original, but that's in the review. So, because of the licensing deal with the arcade publishers, there were a few arcade games on the system. One of which was this most excellent version of one of my favourite games of all time in the arcade, Scramble! This gets quite difficult as it goes on, and I've wasted many hours on this. Talking of games I've spent a lot of time on, if you like driving games, this is Pole Position on the Vectrex. Very, very smooth, especially if you compare it to like the Atari 2600 version at the time. And I like how the car is animated so you can actually see it turning, and the road is so smooth compared to other versions. A most excellent version of Pole Position. And if high-speed racing games are your thing, demonstrating the sort of 3D abilities of the Vectrex, you have Hyper Chase, a game which I am absolutely rubbish at. Not doing too bad here though. But it is a good demonstration of the Vectrex's 3D capabilities. Talking of three-dimensional, this is the most excellent Web Wars. It's hard to believe that a system from this time can produce 3D graphics like this that are so smooth and flow so well. But that's the advantage of having vector graphics. They use less power, so leave you the ability to do magic like this. a most excellent game. And if Weird and Wonderful is your thing, then you can't go wrong with the very strange Spike. Available exclusively, as far as I know, on the Vectrex. Oh yeah, come on. A very quirky platform game, which even has, as you can hear, voices on a system of this age, which shows you the abilities of the Vectrex and just how far ahead of its time it was. And for those really hardcore gamers out there, there's games like this, Fortress of Nazad. Oh yes. I've only ever seen this on the Vectrex, and it is a most enjoyable, very most enjoyable game. Now, one more thing about the games, I don't have any because I play them all on the multi-cards because it's a hell of a lot cheaper. But they look like this. You're going to get the box, the cartridge, the overlay and the instructions, which of course, being Vectrex, look awesome. Your other option, of course, is to use the multi-cards, and there are several out there on the market, and they are a hell of a lot cheaper to collect than the normal games, which are going to cost £15–20 each. Some a lot cheaper, some a lot more. But these comparatively are cheap. The only disadvantage is you don't get the overlays, you don't get the instructions. But you can get the instructions on the net. So there it is, the Vectrex in its entirety. And why are you still here? Why aren't you going out and buying one right now? These things need to be rescued and put and lovingly cared for and all that good stuff. So, thank you very much for watching, and as a first for one of my reviews, if you go to the link below, you'll find some raw footage outtakes from my many attempts to record this video. But beware, there is some mild cursing in there, nothing too put about. So thank you very much.